said that I mean, this is a great coup, and I think it's wonderful that you and I dress alike. It shows something. It shows a kind of solidarity. You know, this is just amazing that you have this interview. It really is a huge coup. You tell us about it.
I want you to know, and you will know what this means, in my long career, in my long history, I have never met a young woman like her. I have never heard a story like hers, and I have never heard anybody who comes through it with such radiant spirit. Really? And if there's one message I think she's going to leave with everybody after this, which is love your life. Wow. She's going to love her life. Yeah. You Poor love girl. Your life, too. But after what she went through,
but then how do you explain the fact that she's not a basket case?
You know, it's a miracle, and she tries throughout this 2 hours. She's going to tell you what survival is. Backyard with no medical care.
I mean, no one can imagine. I mean,
you can't imagine.
You can't imagine.
And she's going to help teach us all. I really believe this. She's going to teach us all about what it takes to survive and to keep a spark of hope alive when you think no hope will come.
Diane, and so many people who go through tragedy sometimes have, you know, they're psychologically they block out or they can't remember. Is she able to recall all what happened? I mean, what did she tell you about the, 18 years?
She has stunning recall. And, you know, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by the detail that she recounts, including the sexual abuse. And I said to her, why did you write this? Why did you put this in the book? And she said to me, it's his shame. Not my shame. Good for her. And on behalf of all of the young people who are stranger abducted and sexually abused every year, she said, let's stare it down. Let's look at what they really do and stare it down until there isn't fear anymore.
Good for her. I want to ask you about these two children because she has two daughters. The first one when she was 14. And she loves her daughters, I assume. On the other hand, these daughters were fathered by a man she hates. So she may see, you know, the reflection in these daughters. How does she deal with these mixed feelings?
She is going to tell you what she sees. And by the way, her mother, too, is going to tell you that they are fully themselves and their daughters. And she loves them completely. And she protects them and protects their privacy. And
because it's not their fault.
Too, it is certainly not
the baby's fault.
And also, they are teaching her about this new life and the future, too.
What do the daughters say about their father?
Well, she's very, again, protective of them and their privacy, but they knew quite a bit because she had little school classes for them every day. A fifth grader. That's all the education she had had. But she set up little school classes from 10 to 2 every day, and she would teach them as much as she could remember about life and the world. And so they are, by all accounts, simply brilliant young women, and she loves them completely. But the other thing I want to make sure you know, and Chris Cuomo is on this case, believe me, he's on this case. Do you know that law enforcement came to that house where she was 60 times and never looked in the backyard to find and he would talk to them and explain things away. One time a neighbor called, because neighbors were all around them, and a neighbor called and said, there are girls in this weird backyard, and I've heard he may be a sexual predator. Yeah. Oh, my God. And they came and inspected for a zoning violation.
Wow. But never that backyard?
Never.
Oh, my God. You know, another thing, Diane, Jaycee, in all the years that she was held captive, she never tried to escape. Even in 1993, Philip Garrido, he returned to prison, which would have been the moment for her to make a run for it. But she never did. Why not?
In 1993, she was still being locked in every night. Okay. And his wife, Nancy.
Tell us about her.
Was locking her in. At times, she was handcuffed to a pull-out bed. And so the idea that she could have just run at those ages isn't the case. Then she had her girls, and she was always making these calculations. And she writes the most amazing things again about dreaming of life outside and what it would be.
How old was she when the first baby was born?
She was 13 when she got pregnant, and she was 14 when she had the baby in the backyard.
He never did anything to her children, did he?
You know, I'm going to just leave that issue
Okay.
She says she protected them, and he says he did not.
Where are they now?
There's their privacy, you know, again, I think they're
in jail
girls,
forever, I presume? The Garridos are in jail forever?
He's in jail for more than 300 years, 300, I believe, before.
3,400 years?
34 years?
34 years.
Doesn't seem enough.
34 years?
It's not enough.
34 to life. Okay.
34 to life, and we'll see what happens with her. But again, as Jaycee's mother, and it's the most beautiful story, the most beautiful story of a reunion. When you see the two of them tell about the day she came back and her mother, her mother's real feelings, it's astounding.
How did the police realize that this was Jaycee Dugard? What did?
How did she get away?
How did that rescue everything?
It's God bless them. God bless them. Two women, moms, campus police, saw something and they thought this looked weird. And as Jaycee said, they could have been wrong. They could have humiliated themselves. They acted anyway. And he had wandered onto a campus. They just thought it looked weird. And she said another lesson is, even though you might be wrong, if you see something that looks weird,
say something.
It could be
they went to the police and said there's this weird
They did the most brilliant thing, because by then he was ranting and raving, and they said, oh, tell us more. Oh, we really want to know more. Tell us more about who you are.
60 visitors should have been doing.
Yeah. And then eventually they all end up at the parole office.
So they really began like that intuitive investigation, which was lacking all those years.
They did.
Well, now, Jaycee, her memoirs are coming out next week, I understand. And she wrote the memoir herself. So how did she do this? Because she stopped going to school when she was 11 years old. So she's only got a 5th grade education. And she did her own memoir.
She always loved words. She always loved storybooks. Making up little stories, as you'll see in her head, helped get her through. And she simply writes unsparingly about what she remembers and what she saw.
And the mother, 18 years later, when
her mother, at one point,
probably
Jaycee
never
says
thought
to
her
me,
daughter would
everyone
be alive.
says, how did I survive?
Yeah.
How did my mom
How did her mother survive, knowing she couldn't?
And we will have that whole story, too, as she tells us.
It's 2 hours this Sunday. As you can see, you're just
Sunday
getting a
night.
little bit of it. It is a fascinating story.
And
Congratulations.
it will make you love your life.
Yeah, well.
It will. She's amazing.
Our thanks to Diane Sawyer. I just want to tell you that Jaycee Dugard, her first interview this Sunday night, 9 o'clock, right here on ABC. Fascinating story. We'll be right back.